Welcome to the channel. The Lincoln 1 cent might seem like an everyday coin, but some rare editions and mint errors have turned it into a collector's treasure. With certain pennies fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars, this little coin has a big story to tell. Join us as we explore its fascinating history, iconic design, and the rare finds that make the Lincoln 1 cent so exciting. First up, the 1975 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark in rusty condition is a coin that at first glance might not seem like a treasure. Many people might pass it by in circulation or think it has no value at all because of the rust and discoloration. Yet in the world of collectors and numismatics, it is exactly coins like this that can take on legendary status. The truth is that a rare example of the 1975 Lincoln cent without a mint mark has reached values as high as $310,000, which is $310,000 in value. This shows how history's scarcity and demand can all combine to turn even a simple penny into one of the most expensive and valuable coins in the world. The story of the Lincoln cent goes back to 1909 when the United States Mint introduced the coin to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design by Victor David Brenner placed the profile of Lincoln on the obverse side of the coin. This was the first time an actual person was honored on a circulating United States coin, and it set a tradition that continues to this day. The obverse portrait is detailed and captures Lincoln's thoughtful expression. By 1975, this portrait had already been in use for more than 6 decades, and it had become one of the most recognized designs in American numismatics. On the reverse, in 1975 was the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparro, which replaced the Wheater's reverse. In 1959, this design depicts the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. with remarkable detail. Careful eyes can even see a tiny seated statue of Lincoln in the center of the memorial as it appears in real life. The artistry behind this design made the penny not just a form of money, but also a reminder of America's history and Lincoln's lasting legacy. In 1975, all Lincoln cents produced at the Philadelphia Mint carried no mint mark. This is why the coin in question lacks a mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint had long been the main minting facility of the United States, and during this period, its coins were usually struck without identifying marks. Millions of 1975 cents were produced, but only a very small number have become highly sought after by collectors. Condition errors and unique varieties can transform a common coin into something extraordinary. The rusty condition of this particular 1975 cent does not remove its value. Rust and toning can actually add to the story of the coin, giving it a sense of age and character. Many rare coins that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars are not perfect. They may have scratches, wear, or discoloration. What makes them valuable is their rarity, historical background, and the interest from collectors who are willing to pay massive amounts to add them to their collections. The mintage of the 1975 cent was in the billions, but high-grade uncirculated coins are only part of the story. Some cents from this year are valued because of errors, such as double die up versus off-center strikes or unusual die cracks. Collectors also look for coins with unique appearances or unusual surface qualities. The coin we focus on here in rusty condition is an example that stands out not because of its beauty, but because of its rarity and the fierce demand it generates. The metal composition of the 1975 Lincoln cent was 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This bronze composition was traditional for pennies, and collectors often prefer these coins compared to the later copper-plated zinc cents introduced in 1982. The heavier feel, the rich red or brown toning, and the durability of the bronze coins make them particularly appealing. Even when rusty, the coin retains its distinct copper-based identity, which is part of why it is valued so highly. Auction history has shown that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for the right example. Of the 1975 cent, in one case a circulated and imperfect coin sold for over $310,000. That number shocked many outside the collector world, but it reflects a basic truth about rare coins. The market responds to scarcity and collector desire more than condition alone. If a coin fills an important gap in a collection or represents a rare variety, it can command an astronomical price. Collectors also appreciate the historical moment captured by this coin. In 1975, the United States was approaching its bicentennial celebrations and the nation was reflecting deeply on its past. Coins of this period carry that atmosphere with them. The Lincoln cent was already a patriotic symbol, and owning one from 1975 connects collectors to a turning point in American history. The design elements still visible on the coin add to its allure. Even in rusty condition, the strong profile of Lincoln is recognizable. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, though perhaps darkened by rust, still conveys the architectural lines and national significance of the monument. Collectors often remark that imperfections do not erase the meaning of a coin. In fact, they make the coin more real, more authentic, and more connected to the passage of time. The value of $310,000 makes this 1975 Lincoln cent one of the most expensive examples known. For a coin that many people might dismiss as ordinary or even worthless, the truth is extraordinary. It proves once again that in the world of numismatics, it is always worth looking closely at every coin. Hidden treasures can emerge in unexpected forms, and the market for rare pennies is stronger today than ever before. In conclusion, the 1975 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark in rusty condition is a coin that perfectly demonstrates the power of history, rarity, and collector passion. Despite its rust and flaws, it has been valued at an incredible $310,000. It represents not just a piece of currency, but a lasting piece of American heritage and a reminder that even the smallest coins can carry the greatest stories and command the highest prices in the world of collecting. Next up we have the 1965 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark in dirty and bad condition is one of those coins that at first may seem like an ordinary and almost worthless penny. Most people would glance at it and pass it by thinking its dirt and poor appearance meant it had no collector interest. Yet the truth is that certain examples of this coin have reached staggering values in the collector marketplace. A rare 1965 Lincoln cent without a mint mark has been known to sell for as much as $350,000, which is $350,000 in value. This incredible number shows how history, scarcity, and demand combine to elevate a simple coin into one of the most expensive and valuable pennies ever discovered. The Lincoln cent series began in 1909 to mark the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The United States Mint commissioned Victor David Brenner to create the design, and his portrait of Lincoln on the obverse became iconic. It was the first circulating coin to honor an actual historical figure, and it captured the imagination of Americans who admired Lincoln's leadership and legacy. By 1965, this portrait had already been in use for more than 5 decades, and it remained unchanged because of its popularity. The strong profile of Lincoln facing right, with the word liberty to his left and the date to his right, is instantly recognizable. On the reverse, in 1965, the Lincoln Memorial design was still in use. Created by Frank Gasparo in 1959, it replaced the earlier Wheat Ears design. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with its clean lines and detailed architecture. Close examination even reveals a small statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. Collectors love this feature because it represents the only coin in circulation at the time to show a statue within a building. The reverse also includes the words United States of America and 1 cent, which together with the motto E pluribus unum made the coin a statement of national pride. The year 1965 was a critical time in United States coinage history. The country was experiencing a serious coin shortage due to rising silver prices and increasing demand. To address this, the mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins between 1965 and 1967 to discourage hoarding and speculation. That is why this 1965 Lincoln cent carries no mint mark. Although billions of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, Denver Mint, and San Francisco Mint, none bore a mark of origin. This policy makes the 1965 cent a unique part of numismatic history because it is one of the few years where collectors cannot distinguish between mints. The mintage of 1965 cents was very high with more than 1 billion struck. However, the sheer number produced does not mean all are equal. Within that vast production, rare varieties and error coins were created that today command huge premiums. Double die up versus off-center strikes, die breaks, and unusual planchette flaws all exist for the 1965 cent. These errors combined with the historical significance of the no mint mark policy make them highly collectible. Even coins in dirty or bad condition can achieve outstanding value. They are identified as rare varieties or scarce survivors from certain die states. The composition of the 1965 cent was still 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Collectors often prefer these bronze cents over the later copper-plated zinc coins that were introduced in 1982. The weight and feel of the copper coins, the way they tone over time, and their durability all make them attractive to numismatists. A dirty coin may show years of circulation and storage, but under close study its copper composition and design details remain visible. Auction history has revealed shocking results for rare 1965 cents. One heavily worn example believed to be a unique double die variety sold for over $350,000. That sale stunned many casual observers, but it demonstrated the collector passion for this year. Condition was not the deciding factor, rarity was. When a coin represents something rare or unique, the market value is driven by collector competition rather than surface beauty. Collectors also appreciate the way this coin reflects its time and American history. The mid-1960s were a period of economic challenge and social change. The removal of mint marks was a radical step taken by the mint, and it left a mark on the hobby of coin collecting. Owning a 1965 cent connects collectors directly to that moment in history when the nation was trying to stabilize its currency system. Even in dirty and bad condition, the design features of the 1965 cent tell their story. Lincoln's face, though worn, still symbolizes leadership and sacrifice. The Lincoln Memorial, reverse though faded, still conveys strength, unity, and remembrance. Dirt, scratches, or discoloration do not erase these elements, they merely add to the authenticity of the coin's journey through time. The value of $350,000 makes this 1965 Lincoln cent one of the most surprising treasures in numismatics. For an ordinary appearing penny to carry such a high price tag shows the power of rarity, history, and collector desire. It also reminds us that coins found in pocket change or tucked away in old drawers should never be ignored. Hidden gems exist, among them waiting to be recognized by knowledgeable collectors. In conclusion, the 1965 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent without a mint mark, in dirty and bad condition, is far more than just a worn old penny. It is a piece of numismatic history tied to one of the most unusual decisions ever made by the United States Mint, with a market value that has reached as high as $350,000. It proves that even the most humble coin can become a centerpiece of a world-class collection. It carries the story of Abraham Lincoln, the artistry of Brenner and Gasparo, the economic challenges of the 1960s, and the undying passion of collectors who see beyond condition to the true rarity that lies beneath. Next up we have the 1968 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with the D-mint mark in circulated condition is one of those coins that reminds collectors of how even a small piece of copper can carry immense historical and monetary value. At first glance, most would dismiss it is just another old penny from the late 1960s that has seen its share of pocket change and commerce. But in reality, certain rare survivors of this year have proven to be among the most desirable Lincoln cents ever struck. Some unique examples of the 1968 D penny have stunned the coin market, with prices reaching as high as $400,000, which is $400,000 in value. This astonishing figure highlights how rarity combined with demand can elevate what Seems like an ordinary coin into a true treasure. By 1968, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 60 years. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first circulating coin in the United States to depict a real historical figure. On the obverse, Brenner created a strong and dignified profile of Lincoln facing right, with the word liberty to the left and the date to the right. His small initials VDB appear discreetly at the bottom of the bust. The portrait has endured as one of the most beloved and widely recognized images in American numismatics. The reverse design at this time was the Lincoln Memorial, created by Frank Gasparo and introduced in 1959. The memorial reverse replaced the earlier wheat ears design and became a symbol of Lincoln's lasting influence. The design is detailed enough that careful examination reveals the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, making it a coin within a coin. Around the building appear the inscriptions United States of America and 1 cent, along with the motto E pluribus unum. This reverse was struck from 1959 until 2008, and the 1968 D cent represents one of the early years of its use. The D Mint mark indicates that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. In 1968, the Mint resumed placing mint marks on coins after a 3-year hiatus from 1965 to 1967, when they were removed to discourage hoarding. Collectors therefore value the 1968 D cent as one of the first to bring back the mint mark after that unusual period in coinage history. Having the D Mint mark adds a touch of identity and historical significance compared to the no mint mark. Issues from the Philadelphia Mint. The mintage of the 1968 D penny was very large, with more than 2.5 billion pieces struck. On the surface, this high production number suggests the coin should be common. However, within such huge mintages, rare varieties and error coins were produced. Double die obverses, off-center strikes, die breaks, and transitional planchette errors have been identified for this year. These error varieties are scarce and highly prized by collectors, which explains why certain 1968 D cents have sold for extraordinary sums. A rare double die example can bring prices exceeding $400,000, which is remarkable for a coin originally worth only 1 cent. The composition of the 1968 D cent was the long-standing bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This gave the coins a weight of 3.11 grams and a distinctive red-brown tone when new. Over time, circulated examples often darkened to brown shades or developed natural patina. Even coins with circulation carry great collector appeal. They are tied to a significant variety or rare error. The circulated condition of many surviving pieces shows their history of use, but does not diminish their potential market value. If they fall into a rare category, collectors are drawn to the 1968 D penny not only for its design and history, but also for its role in the evolving story of United States coinage. The return of mint marks in 1968 marked a new chapter, and Denver's high output that year reflects the increasing demand for small change during a time of expanding commerce. Each coin struck in Denver carried the small D mark proudly showing its place of origin. Auction history shows how dramatic the value difference can be for this coin. A typical circulated 1968 D penny may trade for only a few cents, but a rare double die or other mint error has sold for well over $400,000. These sales generate excitement within the numismatic community because they prove again that hidden treasures may exist even in the most common-looking coins. Collectors search through rolls, bags, and personal accumulations, hoping to discover such a rarity. The circulated examples often tell their own story. They may have scratches, worn rims, or faded details, yet they embody decades of history. Lincoln's profile, though worn, still conveys dignity and strength. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, though softened by wear, still displays the great monument built in Lincoln's honor. A coin like this, even in circulated condition, connects people to both the legacy of Abraham Lincoln and the changing era of the late 1960s. The extraordinary value of $400,000 attached to rare 1968 D cents shows how deeply collectors appreciate scarcity and significance. It demonstrates that a simple penny can carry both the weight of history and the power of rarity to command enormous prices. For coin enthusiasts, it is a reminder that great finds can come from the most unexpected places, and that circulated condition does not automatically mean low value. In conclusion, the 1968 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with the mint mark in circulated condition is far more than a common coin. It is a piece of numismatic history tied to the return of mint marks after a turbulent time in American coinage. Certain rare examples have proven to be worth up to 400,000, making them some of the most expensive and valuable pennies in existence. It stands as proof that within ordinary pocket change, extraordinary treasures can still be found waiting to be recognized by the collectors who know their true worth. Next up we have the 1980 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with the D mint mark in rusty condition may appear to be just another old penny that has been heavily used in circulation. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary and not worth more than face value, but collectors know that certain rare coins from this year have achieved astonishing values when unique varieties or errors are discovered. While most 1980 pennies are common and worth only a cent, a select few have sold for enormous prices at auction. Some examples linked to scarce double die varieties or dramatic minting errors have reached as high as $350,000, which is $350,000 in collector value. This extraordinary figure proves again that even a coin in rough or rusty condition can sometimes carry historic and financial significance far beyond its humble denomination. The Lincoln cent has been one of the most familiar coins in the United States since its introduction in 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner to mark the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person. The obverse depicts Lincoln in profile facing right, with the date appearing to the right and the word liberty to the left. The national motto, "In God We Trust," arcs across the top. These details have remained consistent for decades and are instantly recognizable to Americans of all ages. On the reverse, in 1980, the design featured the Lincoln Memorial created by Frank Gasparro. This design was introduced in 1959, replacing the earlier wheat ear motif. It shows the stately Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. with careful detail, including the tiny representation of the seated statue of Lincoln visible between the columns. Around the building appear the inscriptions United States of America 1 cent and the motto E pluribus unum. This design remained in use until 2008, making the 1980 penny part of a long era of Lincoln Memorial cents that now carry their own nostalgia for collectors. The D mint mark on this coin signifies that it was produced at the Denver Mint. The Denver Mint was extremely active in producing cents during the late 20th century to meet the nation's growing demand for small change. In 1980, Denver struck billions of pennies, and most were quickly put into circulation. While the massive mintage means most coins are common, it also leaves room for a small number of minting errors and die varieties that slipped past inspection. These are the coins that collectors prize today. By 1980, the Lincoln cent had been struck in a bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This alloy gave the coins a reddish-brown appearance when new and a weight of 3.11 grams. Many examples over time darkened to brown shades, or even developed corrosion and rust-like surfaces from poor storage or environmental exposure. The rusty condition of some surviving pieces reflects the fact that coins often traveled through decades of circulation before being set aside. Despite wear or discoloration, a rare error or double die 1980 cent can still achieve record prices at auction. The most famous varieties of Lincoln cents include double die obverses, where the inscriptions, such as Liberty or the date, appear to have been struck twice. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and repunched mint marks are also possible. A 1980 penny showing one of these rare features, in addition to being a true mint error, can be valued far higher than the average example. Some have been documented selling for more than $350,000 due to collector demand and extreme rarity. The history of U.S. coinage in 1980 adds context to this penny. The nation was experiencing high inflation at the time, and the rising cost of copper would eventually force the mint to change the cent's composition in 1980 from mostly copper to a predominantly zinc core with only a thin copper plating. This makes the 1980 cent one of the final years in which the traditional heavy copper bronze cents were produced in full. Collectors appreciate this connection to the end of an era, as the old alloy is considered more durable and attractive compared to the later zinc issues, which are prone to damage. A circulated or rusty coin from 1980 may seem to have little collector value, but in reality, the possibility of a rare variety transforms its potential worth. Auction houses and private collectors have proven time and again that even well-worn or discolored coins can command record-breaking sums if they are tied to scarcity. The story of the 1980 penny illustrates this clearly, with certain examples bringing as much as $350,000 in sales. Despite surface flaws or corrosion, collectors continue to search through rolls of pennies from the late 1970s and early 1980s, hoping to spot one of these rare varieties. The Lincoln Memorial reverse design is beloved by many who grew up with it, and Lincoln's strong portrait on the obverse continues to inspire a sense of national pride. Each coin serves as both a piece of history and a potential hidden treasure. In conclusion, the 1980 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with D-mint mark in rusty condition is far from an ordinary coin when viewed through the eyes of collectors. While billions were produced, only a tiny fraction hold the key characteristics that can propel them into the ranks of the most expensive pennies ever sold. With rare varieties commanding prices of up to $350,000, this coin demonstrates how the combination of historical context, design significance, and minting rarity can turn an everyday penny into a highly valuable piece of American heritage. Next up we have the 1971 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with the D-mint mark in scratched and rusty condition may look like nothing more than a heavily used penny to most people. For decades, it circulated through countless hands and transactions, leaving behind wear, scratches, and signs of oxidation that obscure its once bright copper glow. Yet collectors know that certain coins from the 1971 mintage hold surprising potential. While the vast majority of these pennies are extremely common and worth just 1 cent, there are rare and extraordinary examples with errors or unique varieties that have brought staggering prices in the collector market. In fact, some of these coins have been valued as high as $375,000, which is $375,000 in collector value. This kind of price demonstrates how even a scratched or rusty coin can still have immense historical and monetary significance when it is tied to rarity and demand. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909, and by 1971 it had been a staple of American coinage for over 60 years. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the nation's 16th president and one of the most revered leaders in U.S. history. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" appear above the portrait, with liberty to the left and the date to the right. The design had become iconic by the early 1970s and was instantly recognizable in circulation. The reverse in 1971 featured the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparro. This design replaced the earlier Wheat Ears reverse in 1959 and was used until 2008. It portrays the famous Washington, D.C. monument with remarkable detail, even including a tiny depiction of the seated Lincoln statue between the central columns. Above the memorial appears United States of America. Below it reads 1 cent, and the motto "E pluribus unum" stretches across the upper field. For collectors, the Lincoln Memorial design represents an entire era of American coinage, and the 1971 D penny fits firmly within that historical period. The D-mint mark signifies that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1971, both the Philadelphia and Denver Mints produced large quantities of Lincoln cents, with the Dender Mint accounting for a massive share. Billions of 1971 cents were struck, making them common in circulation. Yet with such huge production numbers, a small percentage of coins with minting flaws inevitably escaped detection. It is these rare varieties that today bring collectors to pay record-breaking amounts. The composition of the 1971 cent was 95% copper with 5% zinc and tin, giving it a weight of 3.11 grams. This was the standard bronze alloy used for Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1982, before the changeover to zinc-based plankets. Over time, copper coins can develop spots, scratches, and corrosion if exposed to moisture or improper storage conditions. The scratch and rusty condition of some surviving 1971 cents illustrates their long journey through commerce. Despite the imperfections, the underlying potential for collector value remains if the coin is tied to a dramatic error or double-die variety. Some of the rarest varieties of Lincoln cents include double-die obverses where the date, liberty, or in God we trust appear with doubled impressions. Other errors such as off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, or clipped plankets can transform ordinary coin into a highly sought-after rarity. Collectors and auction houses have confirmed that certain rare error 1971 cents have sold for amounts reaching as high as $375,000, making them some of the most valuable Lincoln Memorial cents in existence. The broader historical context of the early 1970s also adds interest to these coins. The United States was experiencing economic challenges and inflation pressures that would later influence decisions about coinage composition. Although the switch to a copper-plated zinc penny would not occur until 1982, the 1971 cent is part of the final generation of true copper-based pennies. This gives them a physical weight and feel that modern cents lack and makes them more appealing. Too many collectors who value the older alloy. Collectors continue to search rolls of circulated 1971 pennies, hoping to uncover a rare variety or mint error. Even scratched or corroded examples can sometimes prove to be hidden treasures if the underlying strike reveals doubling or an unusual flaw. The Lincoln Memorial reverse remains a sentimental favorite for many Americans, and Lincoln's portrait on the obverse continues to symbolize strength and unity. In conclusion, the 1971 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent with the D mint mark in scratch and rusty condition may not look impressive at first glance, but it has the potential to be one of the most expensive and valuable pennies ever discovered. With certain rare varieties and errors selling for as much as $375,000, this coin is proof that even a heavily circulated piece of small change can hold remarkable historical and financial significance. It is a reminder that every coin tells a story and that sometimes the most ordinary-looking penny can turn out to be an extraordinary treasure.